Hello dear students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Surinder Kaur, Professor, Khalsa College of Education, Ranjit Avenue, Amritsar. Today we are going to discuss Code of Conduct of Teachers and Professional Ethics. The objectives of this topic are to define Code of Conduct and Code of Professional Ethics, to enlist major ethical issues, to identify the criteria and main steps in the development of Code of Conduct, to illustrate the observance of code and mechanism to deal with violations as per NCTE and examine the draft proposed by NCTE for Code of Professional Ethics for teachers, to expound the purposes of Code of Conduct and Ethics and to explain the disadvantages of codes. The role of teacher has changed drastically over the years. What do you think could be the possible reason behind this? Well, according to me, this has happened due to scientific and technological developments, rethinking approaches to teaching and learning, explosion of knowledge, paradigm shift from teacher-centered approach to learner-centered approach. Thus, there is a need to establish a set of guidelines, a code that a teacher must stick to for improving ethics of teaching profession, and it must serve model for the students also. Such a code would lead the teachers to teach ethically. Now, how do we know what ethical teaching is? Ethical teaching is concerned with the questions of values, that is, making judgments about good or bad behavior in any given situation. The standards, values, morals, principles, etc. make ethics that guide one's decision or actions. In this topic, we are mostly concerned about Code of Conduct and Code of Professional Ethics for teachers. Let's look into what is Code of Conduct and Code of Professional Ethics. Code of Conduct refers to the behavior and ways of thinking of teachers in situations where a choice can affect the dignity and well-being of others. It helps to provide direction and guidance to them in enhancing the dignity of their professional work. Thus, a code of conduct may help in smooth functioning of the institution. A code of professional ethics is a document that outlines a set of principles issued by a higher authority which affect decision making and guide the teachers to discharge their duty towards students, parents, colleagues and community. The formation and enforcement of code of ethics makes the profession self-regulating and self-governing. The main objective of these ethics is to make the teacher aware about the present and future impact of teaching on students' personality. Scope of code is wide and comprehensive. It includes code of ethics, code of conduct, standards of professional practice. Both code of conduct and code of ethics represent two of the most common ways of self-regulation. Code of ethics governs decision making and code of conduct governs action. Both codes provide direction to teachers. In any institution, code of conduct refers to written rules and regulations about how teachers have to behave in various situations. Generally, it is suggested that institution must have both types of codes. The maintenance of ethical standard is the collective concern of the institute as well as all members of the profession. It is the responsibility of the school not only to instruct teachers how to teach in a democratic environment, but also how to do so in an ethical manner. Let me explain code of ethics and code of conduct with the help of example. If drugs or smoking or alcohol is not allowed inside the school premises, but an employee finds himself in a situation where there is no one around and there is no chance of him being caught by anyone or camera, it is his decision not to smoke that comes within the purview of code of ethics and not code of conduct. So teachers should be held responsible for the ethical use of his powers. A code of ethics can guide him toward honorable and professional behavior and also protect its members not to go against the professional rules. Code of conduct is constructed with the objectives of improving the quality of teaching, inculcating the feeling of professionalism among teachers, developing a positive attitude towards teaching profession, helping the students against unethical conduct of teachers, checking on teachers' misconduct, preventing violation of code of conduct, serving as a template for discussion and helps in improving the ethics of the teaching profession. Generally, it is preferred that the code of professional ethics should be prepared by the professional organizations of teachers so as to ensure its adherence as a self-imposed discipline. The criteria on which a code of conduct is formed, that is, ethical student-teacher relationships, ethical teacher-teacher relationships, teachers' professional security and professional conduct, terms of employment. Generally, a committee comprising teachers from various streams is formed that will assist in the development of code addressing different areas which are essential for the institution. Main steps in the development of code of conduct are: first one is collecting information. For collecting information, the members of the committee collect the ideas which has to be included in the code. It is always good to start by examining the values mentioned in the school mission statement. The areas may include conflicts of interest, personal and professional integrity, harassment, teacher-taught relations, relation with the head, discrimination, confidentiality, etc. On the basis of information, basic content and structure of the code is determined, which may help in step 2, that is developing a draft. An effective code of conduct should be positive and value-based document that must guide the teachers for appropriate behavior instead of displaying a list of rules and regulations that must be obeyed at all cost. It is very important that language should be clear, concise and free of legal slang. Next important step is reviewing the draft. Try-out is done on the group of teachers who are not otherwise involved in the code development process, and feedback given by them is incorporated. The completed document is then submitted to head. Head of the institution may consult a legal counselor to ensure legal compliance. Next step is approving and introducing the code. Here, the head of the institution, after scrutinizing the code provisions in detail, approves it. It should be introduced properly so that each and every employee, including the head of institution, should understand it. And the last step is enforcing the code. A code of conduct in written form has no value unless it is enforced effectively. Now let us discuss the major ethical issues. There are certain issues which are generally observed, like collecting illegal fees and funds from students, disclosing confidential school matters, take drugs or alcohol in school premises, harass the students, give corporal punishment, come to school under the influence of alcohol or drugs, damage school property, get appointment on the basis of fake degrees or certificates, violate disciplinary norms, remain absent without informing. NCTE, in collaboration with All India Primary Teachers Federation, All India Secondary Teachers Federation and All India Federation of Educational Associations, developed a draft of Code of Professional Ethics for teachers in 1997, which can be used as a model by the teachers. It consists of preamble that talks of recognizing that every child has a fundamental right to education of good quality, that every child has an inherent potential and talent, that education should be directed to the all-round development of the human personality, the need for developing faith in the guiding principles of our polity, that is, democracy, social justice and secularism, the need to promote through education the concept of composite culture of India and a sense of national identity, that teachers, being an integral part of social environment, share the needs and aspirations of the people, the need to enhance self-esteem of teachers, the need to organize teaching as a profession for which expert knowledge, specialized skills and dedication are prerequisites, that the community respect and support for the teachers are dependent on teachers' professionalism, and the need for self-direction and self-discipline among members of the teaching community. After preamble, the draft enlists the teacher's obligations towards students also, wherein a teacher treats all students with love and affection, respects the value of being just and impartial to all students, irrespective of their caste, creed, religion, sex, economic status, disability, language and place of birth, facilitates students' physical, social, intellectual, emotional and moral development, respects basic human dignity of the child in all aspects of school life, makes planned and systematic efforts to facilitate the child to actualize her potential and talent, transacts the curriculum in conformity with the values enshrined in the Constitution of India, adopts her teaching to the individual needs of the students, maintains the confidentiality of the information concerning students and dispenses such information only to those who are legitimately entitled to it, refrains from subjecting any child to mental and emotional harassment, keeps a dignified manner in compliance with the expectations from a teacher as a role model. Next, the draft mentioned teachers' obligations towards parents, community and society. A teacher establishes a relationship of trust with the parents in the interest of all-round development of the students. Desists from doing anything which is derogatory to the respect of the child or his parents, strives to develop respect for the composite culture of India among students, refrains from taking part in such activities as may spread feelings of hatred or enmity among different communities, religious or linguistic groups. Next is teachers' obligations towards the profession and colleagues. A teacher strives for her continuous professional development, creates a culture that encourages purposeful collaboration and dialogue among colleagues and stakeholders, take pride in the teaching profession and treat other members of the profession with respect and dignity, refrains from engaging himself in private tuition or private teaching activities, refrains from accepting any gift or favor that might impair or appear to influence professional decision or action, refrains from making unnecessary allegations against colleagues or higher authorities, avoids making disrespectful statements about colleagues, especially in the presence of students, other teachers, officials or parents, respect the professional standing and opinions of his colleagues, maintain confidentiality of information concerning colleagues, and dispenses such information only when authorized to do so. This was all about a draft given by NCTE. Now, let's have a look on observance of the code. The enforcement of the code of conduct is the responsibility of the authority. One way is to provide a copy of the code of professional ethics to the teachers at the time of appointment so that he may observe it in all letter and spirit. However, there is possibility that some teachers may violate code of conduct or some may partially adhere to it. Therefore, there is need to evolve a suitable mechanism that may ensure that all teachers of an institution must follow the ethical principles enshrined in the code. Authority must take disciplinary action in case if any teacher violates the code of conduct. But authority must keep in mind that action should be taken as per the magnitude and nature of the violation. NCTE has evolved following 4-tier mechanism to deal with the violations of the code. School or block ethics committee. In the case of higher secondary schools where the number of teachers is quite sizable, an ethics committee at the school level comprising senior members of the staff should be appointed. In the case of primary or elementary schools, keeping in view the fewer number of teachers, the ethics committee could be constituted at the block level by the concerned associations of teachers. At the initial level, the committee should try to persuade the erring teachers by warning them to mend their ways, or the committee would not support them if some disciplinary actions are initiated against them by the authorities. Second is District Ethics Committee. The recognized teacher organizations or associations in the state shall jointly constitute the ethics committee at the district level comprising representative of teachers and eminent educationists. The committee should deal with complaints referred to it by the school or block ethics committee, where the teachers have failed to improve their conduct in spite of the efforts made by the school or block ethics committee. This committee should deal with complaints of serious nature such as violation of constitutional provisions, cases of child abuse, spreading feelings of hatred or enmity among different communities, etc. The committee may issue advisories to the erring teachers if necessary. In the case of recurrence of violation of the code, the district committee shall refer the matter to the state committee for appropriate action. The recognized teacher organizations in the state shall jointly appoint an ethics committee comprising eminent educationists, representatives of teacher organizations, and parents. The committee should deal with complaints referred to it by the district committees. The committee may debar the erring teachers from contesting elections for various offices in the concerned teacher organization or suspend their membership. At national level, there is National Ethics Committee, which is constituted by NCTE and all India Federations of School Teachers, comprising eminent educationists, representatives of federations of elementary and secondary teacher organizations, National Commission for the Protection of Child Rights, and parents. The committee should be responsible for consideration of issues which may require periodical review of the code and also for the formulation of guidelines for the functioning of ethics committee at different levels. Now we will discuss what is the purpose of code of conduct and ethics. To foster a culture of high standard of honesty, integrity, ethical and law-abiding behavior among teachers, to encourage the observance of standards to protect and promote the interest of students and the institution, to set out the responsibility and accountability of teacher, to report and investigate any reported violations of the code or unethical behavior, to instruct teachers about the standards of the school, to develop ethical foundations of good teaching in his subject and considers major areas of ethical concern in teaching, to enable the teacher to deal consistently and firmly with all students in classroom, to ensure that teachers are interacting in a professional manner, to make the disciplinary process easier when unethical behavior occurs, to serve as an instrument of self-regulation by acknowledging a responsibility on the part of teachers for the work that they do, to represent a status symbol that protects the profession, to function as a cornerstone of quality teaching by creating conducive learning environment. However, code of conduct has many disadvantages like inequality. Generally, it is observed that senior members of the institution are exempted from certain codes. They may result in the development of feeling of inequality. Another is unethical behavior. Sometimes code of conduct may result in unethical behavior among teachers as it restricts them from expressing their views against the head or institution even something wrong is happening. They do so because of the fear that they may lose their job if they speak against the institution. Code of conduct are developed keeping in view the values of the institution, but sometimes the code of conduct also changes according to the needs which may or may not be according to the values of the institution. To sum up, I would like to say this topic discusses the concept of code of conduct and professional ethics for teachers. Code of conduct is essentially a set of professional ethics standards with which teachers are required to comply. It refers to the behavior and ways of thinking of teachers in situations where a choice can affect the dignity and well-being of others. A code of professional ethics is a document that outlines a set of principles issued by higher authority which affect decision making and guide the teachers to discharge their duty towards students, parents, colleagues and community. Both code of ethics and code of conduct represent two of the most common ways of self-regulation. Code of ethics governs decision making and code of conduct governs actions. Both codes provide direction to teachers, but both codes regulate teachers' behavior in different ways. A code of conduct or ethics that governs how the person to whom it applies conducts herself in ethical manner. In the institution, code of conduct is constructed with the objectives of improving the quality of teaching, inculcates the feeling of professionalism among teachers, develop a positive attitude towards teaching profession, helps the students against unethical conduct of teachers, check on teachers' misconduct, prevent violation of code of conduct, serve as template for discussion and helps in improving the ethics of teaching profession and promotes public trust. Keeping in mind the major ethical issues, code of conduct is developed in 5 steps, that is collecting information, creating draft, reviewing draft, approving and introducing the code and enforcing the codes. Institutions can also develop the code of conduct as per draft given by NCTE. Both codes are beneficial for the smooth functioning of the institutions as well as for improving the quality of teaching. To enforce code of conduct effectively, it should be stable and does not promote inequality. Thank you.